Welcome to this video, which is the first of two parts of an interview that I do with the most successful female randonneer at the Paris-Brest-Paris. In this first part of the video, she shares what motivates her to keep returning to the Paris-Brest-Paris to make it a record number of finishes. She also shares her training strategies and shares what she does during the Paris-Brest-Paris to make each of her attempts successful. I hope that you enjoy this video as much as I have enjoyed producing it.
Hello, I'm Deirdre Ascott. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. As Regan said, I've been lucky enough to go to Paris-Brest-Paris many times. And some of it is luck, I think, because you need to be healthy and uninjured and no family emergencies that year, and getting to vacation time from work. It does take some luck as well as preparation.
I want to ask you the first question. When did you do your very first Paris-Brest-Paris?
I did it in 1987.
1987. May I ask you how old you were at the time?
I was 32 when I did my first one.
Did you do all 10 of your Paris-Brest-Paris successively?
I haven't missed one. I've done every edition since 1987.
Did you?
And completed them.
You completed every single one within the time limits that you set yourself?
Yes.
That is just incredible. How many other women are there that have actually completed 10 successive Paris-Brest-Paris, or 10 in total ever? Do you have any idea?
No other women have completed 10.
Okay, so none have done 10 and none have done it successively either.
No. Well, there's a French woman who's done 8, and she was just incredible. She was a very fast, competent cyclist and rode with her husband. Her name, I just went blank on her name, but her husband is Jean-Claude Chabirant, and he just completed his 13th.
Oh, I see. I saw he was one of 2 riders that have done 13.
I know he's done 13, but there could be another person as well. I don't know.
Yes. Wow. So I think that makes your accomplishments even more amazing, in that you've done so well, and you've really just, you really set the bar extremely high for everybody else to follow. So that's wonderful. Congratulations.
You're welcome. But I love that event, so I like to go. It makes a difference when you love something, right? When you're passionate about something.
So what is it about the Paris-Brest-Paris that attracts you so much to it?
I think the French people, the help you get provided on the side of the road is, it buoys you up, those people clapping and helping you out if you need help. For instance, this time I was riding tandem, and I had a very strong tandem partner, but he had a cold and he was feeling quite sick most of the ride. And one evening he said, I need to lay down for 20 minutes and have a rest. So we laid down and there was no one there. And we were laying on the grass, and within minutes, someone runs out and asks us in French if we need a blanket, and they disappear and they come back and toss this huge duvet over us. And then they've got the cell phone out. What time do you want to wake up? We'll wake you up. And I mean, just unsolicited support that you get on the side of the road it's very touching. And I think that's why I like this event. There's always very touching moments, and between the participants, the participants give each other.
So who was your tandem partner this year?
It was Nigel Press. When I finished my 9th PBP, people kept asking me if I was coming for number 10. And I kept telling them I want to go for number 10, but I just don't know whether I'm going to be fast enough. In fact, at one of the food stops in the 2019 edition of Paris-Brest, they kept asking me, but you have to come for number 10. And I said, well, I will if I think I'm fast enough. And then finally I said, I need a young man in a tandem. And I was lucky enough that Nigel is 21 years younger than me, has a beautiful tandem. He's probably one of the fastest members of our club, and he asked me to ride. And I was
Oh,
So excited and so lucky that he asked me.
oh, wonderful. Congratulations to both you and Nigel for completing your 10. And was that Nigel's first ride?
Nigel's second. I feel a bit sorry for Nigel. The first time he did it was 2007 and it rained the whole time. And so he came back this time and he had a cold from within probably an hour of the start. He could barely talk. He had such a bad cold, but he
Oh,
managed to get around.
what is it that first got you interested in riding the Paris-Brest-Paris?
I showed up in Vancouver for a 100-kilometer ride, and it was the BC randonneurs, and they told me that they had a 200-kilometer ride going in 2 weeks. And I kind of thought, yeah, well, I'm not going to do that, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I did the 2, and then I did the 3, and then I did the 4, and then the 6 and the 1,000. And I was just totally hooked from the get-go. That was in 1986. And then they told me, well, next year's Paris-Brest-Paris. And I knew I wanted to go. They told me how much fun it was and, the historical aspect of it. 36, because the first one is kind of year 0.
Yes. Okay. So your math is better than mine. Oh, that's amazing. So 36 years of riding.
Yeah.
At this stage, do you think you might come back to do number 11 and make it a 40 round number?
You don't think 10 is a round number? I know I would love to, but I know I'm getting quite slow on the bike, and which means if you're slow, you're not going to get as much sleep. And as I'm aging, I find I'm not clear-headed if I don't get enough sleep. So I'd really have to think about it, whether I could do it again. When I was younger, it didn't matter. I could stay totally focused without sleep, but unfortunately, both the mind and the body are going.
Think about your first one compared with your most recent one. Besides having a partner this time, were there any other differences that you noticed over the past 10 editions of the Paris-Brest-Paris?
In the last couple of editions, before all those little villages, there'd be trailing geraniums tumbling out of the flower boxes in the windows, and the bridges that would, on the rails of the bridges, like Ambière-les-Vallées, the bridge used to be covered in flower boxes. But I noticed the population slowly getting older in those villages, and they all used to have bakeries and hotels, and the villages are slowly dying. I guess people are moving to the city. And I was hoping this time after the pandemic that people would be working from home and the villages might be revitalized a lot. So I've seen the villages kind of, I'm wondering if the villages are going to survive. And a lot of the villages used to have bakeries in them, which randonneurs want to stop at. And there used to be a lot more hotels en route. And all these little towns used to have hotels, but it's harder to find hotels now. Of course, people didn't speak a word of English then. Now they all try and speak English, but it was very different.
So you bring up a really interesting point, which I didn't think about, because I don't have your experience, that the actual population along the route actually has changed a lot over the years. And it sounds as though the population is getting older and the younger population is not replacing them. The younger population all probably does go to the bigger urban centers. So that's really interesting.
There is maybe some more younger ones this time, but in general, the population seems to be aging.
And what about the riders themselves? Have you noticed, are the randonniers, are they becoming an older group of cyclists, or are they a lot new younger riders replacing them?
I've seen the average age. They publish the average age, and the average age has definitely gone up over the years, but it seems to have stabilized now around 50 or 52. But when I started, most of the riders were in their early 40s. I used to be younger than the average. I'm older. When I started, I think at least half of the participants were French. And so you would start every conversation in French. Now it's probably better to talk to people in English, the kind of more the common language. And yeah, it's really fun to see the participants, especially a lot of the Asian participants, the Indians and the Filipinos. Oh, they're so excited to be there, and they bring a lot of joy and exuberance. And yeah, it's really fun to see all the other countries come in, and the Brazilians too.
Coming back to ride the Paris-Brest-Paris and so many times, what keeps you motivated to keep coming back? Because I mean, for most of us, it's hard to do it once. How do you keep motivated to keep coming back so many times?
Well, I guess I said, as I said, I really love this event. I'm not as interested in doing other 1200s as this one. I've only done a couple of other 1200s, but you're kind of alone in the middle of nowhere. But there's always people around you on Paris and those supporters. I think it's because it's such a special event, I can motivate myself to come back. I'm excited about that event. And if I don't go back to ride the 11th time, I'll go back to volunteer.
I think you've made a really good point in that randonneering for most of us is a very lonely activity. I'm talking about especially here in Western Canada, where we have very small groups. We sometimes 5 people or 3 people riding
Yes.
600 or 1,000 kilometers, and very often, you'd be riding for hours and hours or days sometimes without seeing anybody. So, and then to go to Paris, where you suddenly have thousands of people, I think, yes, you're right. It does give you a sense of purpose and of support. So I think it is a lot more attractive to go back to the Paris-Brest-Paris. Have you ever lost motivation to go back to say, well, this is number 7. I'm really not going to go any further. Did you ever get to that stage?
No. As I said, if I don't ride, I'll go and volunteer.
So whether you're riding, whether you're volunteering, it's an event that you always are interested to go back to.
Yes.
Were there ever times when you were in a ride and you thought, I'm just going to quit this. It's just too hard. I can't go on, or I've got some kind of technical issue or health issue. Did you ever have that kind of difficulty during one of the PVPs?
I think I've been pretty lucky. I try to solve all those issues before I go. The 2007, when it was raining all the time, it was difficult, definitely difficult. And I was lucky I managed to book a hotel on one night. We stopped there and all our clothes dried out, and it made such a huge difference. I think it would have been a real struggle otherwise. And I remember I had brand new derailleur cables, but I broke a cable, and this shifting inside the brake lever, the cable was stuck, and I was with my husband and we couldn't get it out. And that was a concern. But then the motorcycles that go by to make sure everyone's safe, they stopped and they had a leatherman, and they were able to cut the cable out for me, and I had a spare with me, and off we went again. So I've been lucky.
Did you ever reach the situation where you were just too fatigued to continue, or sleep deprived? Did you ever have that situation?
No, I always wanted to continue.
Wow.
It's hard to get up in the morning, though.
Yes. Wow.
I have a hard time getting up every day in the morning.
What you said is that you prepare extremely well for riding the Paris-Brest-Paris. What kind of training do you do in the 4 years preparing for each of the events that you've done? Do you have a specific formula? Do you say, in the 4 years leading up to it, I've got to do so many 1200s or so many Super Randonneer series? Is there a specific kind of preparation that you follow?
I usually do the Super Randonneur series every year, and I probably do more shorter rides. I quite often do 1,000. I like the thousands a lot. I often do 1,000, but I think it's important to do a Super Randonneur series the year before PVP and the year of PVP. I always do 1,000 the year before PVP. Even before we had to do it to get a good time slot, I'd do 1,000, because the multi-day rides, it prepare, you know, that's a 3-day ride, so it prepares you for a multi-day ride, and gives you confidence that you can get through Paris-Brest-Paris if you've done 1,000 before. The year of Paris-Brest-Paris, I usually do a full series, often, and then quite often a lot of 2s and 3s, maybe another 4. Before a couple of weeks before PBP, I often do a tour of some sort, back-to-back rides, maybe 100 or 150 kilometers a day. If I have my panniers on, probably maybe only, well, I probably do 120 kilometers a day with panniers on, or 150 if I don't have much. But those back-to-back days, I find harden my butt up a bit, just get me used to being on the bike and the posture. But I find that really helpful, doing 4, 5, 6, 7 days back to back as a tour. Just something fun that you're going to enjoy, but you're sitting on your bike for quite a number of hours a day. I think that's been good for me.
And just to follow up on that, so if PBP is usually at the end of August, would you do that kind of tour sometime in July or June, or how soon before the PBP would you do that?
Probably late August, late July, beginning of August. Or sometimes I used to fly into Paris-Brest-Paris 2 weeks before and tour for a week, and then take a week off, or do, you know, only 5 or 10 kilometers a day on the week off. And the other thing, I definitely have to try and do some speed work now. When I was younger, I didn't do it, but now I definitely have to try and do some intervals and speed work, and work, if I, you know, ride hills. Paris-Brest-Paris is hilly, so if you've got hills to ride, ride them, I'd say.
Thank you for joining us in this first part of the interview with the most successful female randonneer at the Paris-Brest-Paris to date. Stay tuned for the second part of the interview, which will be released next week. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to press that like button. And if you would like to see more videos related to this type of interview, please subscribe to this channel. Until the next time we meet, please ride safely.